Government uses majority to get $23.2 billion in supplementary funding. Suspected drug plane crashes near Suriname border. And the media's parliamentary coverage sucks. I am Noriko Bulford, and welcome to tonight's edition of Uncut News. Before we begin, do you have something important you want to leak without revealing your identity? Send us a tip on WhatsApp at 592-659-6151. Yesterday's session of the National Rum Shop definitely lived up to its name by holding a long, contentious ruckus that went well into this morning. But after all the arguing was said and done, the government used its majority, plus Schumann, to approve $23.2 billion in supplementary funding. While the opposition was relentless in its questions on the funding, they were ultimately pointless and mostly grandstanding, to be honest, as the $23.2 billion was approved. Nevertheless, only $10 billion is for flood recovery efforts, meaning the government also approved an additional $13.2 billion in spending. Of this, $1.5 billion is for Gaisuko. Yes, I know. $2.8 billion to the CHNPA because apparently they underestimated the cost of building the housing schemes. Corruption. Sorry. $619.2 million in Rona vaccines. $623 million for repairs to the Demerara Bridge. $618 million to go to a Coast Guard vessel we won't even receive until 2022. And an unspecified amount of funding from the remaining $6-some-odd billion of taxpayer money is going to various infrastructure projects, including a grounds enhancement program, whatever that is, sewerage, and water supply works, and contracts to companies that supported their elections campaign. I mean, well, it's like Winston Churchill once said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And at exactly 5:32 a.m. this morning, the government, plus Schumann, voted out David Patterson as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. The whole House had to vote on this as the coalition refused to allow him to resign, while the government members of the PAC refused to have another meeting until PATO is gone. It is now expected that another opposition member of the PAC will be the chairperson instead. The government will be revising the proposed amendment to the Police Act, which would permit the taking of DNA samples from any person who might be in lawful custody. This was after the Guyana Bar Association expressed concerns that the vague wording was troubling and would allow for abuse of the law, especially by corrupt cops. Apparently, Nondal agreed. According to him, this whole stupidness was all Ramjatan's idea. The proposal was first made when Ramjatan was still the public security minister. Mayor Ubraj Narayan is calling on the government to change the Georgetown bylaws to increase revenue collection. In a recent interview, he noted that high-rise buildings are going up all across the city, but they continue to pay nominal sums for taxes, whilst attracting added strain on solid waste collection. According to the mayor, they only receive about 25% of the taxes required to administer the city, which is obviously unacceptable. He even noted that some state agencies are among the biggest tax dodgers in Georgetown. Now it's time to tell you about Best Buy's car of the day. Currently on sale is this Nissan Juke. It comes with mag rims, new tires, DVD stereo, reverse camera, rear spoiler, and much more. Buy cash for $2.9 million, all paid down as low as $580,000 down, with around $66,000 monthly for 4 years, and it's yours. Call or WhatsApp 662-0844 for more info, or visit their showrooms at Lot 171 Peter Rose Street, Queenstown, or Lot 2 Lamar Street, and tell them Noriko sent you for this sweet deal. So, enough politics for now. Now for some crime. Today, Kanu said a burnt-out aircraft suspected to have been used in carrying out illicit activities was found near Kukwani in Region 10. No illicit cargo was discovered on board. Nevertheless, they are searching for the pilot of the plane to further investigate the crash. This is the second of such suspicious drug plane crashes in the area. Last month, 450 kilos were seized after a plane crash-landed near Oriella. 44-year-old welder Subhash Chandra Lal from the Essequibo coast was reported missing after he journeyed to Parika on Saturday to meet someone concerning a job. However, he never returned home. The police are currently looking for him. It's now time for today's Rona Report. Today, the nation recorded 84 new cases. there are now 337 persons dead, 33 persons in the ICU, and 1,378 persons in home isolation. The total number of confirmed cases around the nation now stands at 18,530. So, please people, wash your hands frequently. Avoid touching your nose and mouth and mask up before you leave the house. When you do leave home, try to avoid enclosed spaces and large crowds. And remember to give 6 feet of space between you and others. Introducing Ferry, an app that lets you find someone that's traveling to or from overseas, so you can send your packages with them. Genius! Download Ferry from your favorite app store and book a space in someone's luggage, or better yet, if you're traveling, rent a piece of luggage space and make some money. Ferry puts the X in express shipping. Download today at ferryshareglobal.com. Today, a councillor in the Region 6 RDC was charged for breaching the Rona guidelines. Councillor Suraj Dial Sahadio pleaded guilty to the charge. On May 2nd, Sahadio attended a wedding at Blackbush Polder that was in breach of the health restrictions. However, he was not fined for the crime. Instead, the regional councillor was reprimanded and discharged, while the guy who hosted the party got fined $15,000. See what I say when I say there's 2 justice systems in this country? Oh well. On Sunday, the decomposed body of an elderly woman was discovered at Perseverance, Buckdam, Northwest District. She is identified as 97-year-old Ruby Williams. The elderly woman was reportedly last seen alive on June 10th, walking in the direction of her camp. According to the police, she lived alone. However, on the 13th, a man discovered her partially decomposed body on a trail near her home. They were unable to determine if she had any marks of violence, as obviously her body was too decomposed and deteriorated. Do you want to grow your money? Sell Digicel Top-Up. Become a top-up vendor through Cellular Plus and make some extra cash to supplement your income at your business or your side hustle. Call 685-3109 for more info. And now for our stupid news of the day. The media's coverage of Parliament sucks. I mean, really, it's terrible. But don't blame the hard-working journalists themselves. Blame the cheap, biased jerks who own the nation's major media houses. Each and every one of them shows a bias so clear that it makes Trump's ego look small. You see, they don't even want you to watch full coverage of Parliament with proper context because they don't want you to see what's truly going on. Because if you did, you'd start asking questions. And as we've seen time and time again, politicians hate when you start asking them questions because you'd get rid of them if they gave you the answers. Sure, Parliament itself broadcasts the proceedings of the House, which is great. But they don't explain what it means at all, and I wouldn't expect them to. I mean, they're the government. But that is what the media is supposed to be there for, not just to give you a boring 5-minute summary of Parliament that you're not even going to listen to. They need to be more like BBC, CNN, or dare I even say Fox News. I mean, because there's a lot of money being allocated in Parliament, and we seem to only know the fullness of what was spent after the fact. So, all of this is to say that if you want to have a more well-informed society, we need to pressure these media fat cats to hire some experts in their fields to actually help the journalists inform the public better when it comes to these matters. Because accepting the current state of affairs is pretty stupid. Hey Guyanese business people, are you looking for a great way to advertise your business? Search no more. Join one of the fastest growing business directories in Guyana. Register your business on snap.gy and get access to more eyeballs. And wait for the best part, it's free. Get your business listed today on snap.gy. Moving on to our Uncut News Viewers Poll question of the day. Every day we pose a question about current events in the nation, the region, the diaspora, and how you feel it relates to us. So, you give your responses in the comment, and we'll read the best ones in the following episode. Monday's question was, should the government offer flood victims land in the current developing housing schemes? Sharon Davis says, I disagree. Why relocate the people? What the government should do is put systems in place to deal with the flood beforehand. You and I both agree on that one. Grant says, yes, Enrico, I'm Norrico, by the way, but the government should offer all flood victims new land and homes away from flood zones. Whole villages must be moved. What choice do we have? Become aquatic mammals? Are we manatees or sea dogs? No, we aren't. The intelligent thing is often the hardest thing. we must move to higher ground. Local and national government should see this as an opportunity for growth. It will create jobs in every sector for Guyanese. Well, that's a great way to look at it, Grant. And finally, Jay Jairam says the government should try to offer comparable land where the flood victims want to go within reason. Again, I agree. So for tonight's question, all of these $1 billion in parliamentary funding, how do you feel about it? Does the supplementary funding make sense, or do you have some reservations about it? Think about that question and tell us in the comments below. If your response is good enough, we just might feature it in our next episode. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. Check us out tomorrow for another. Until then, I'm Rico Bullford saying good night, folks. Hey, Uncut News viewers, thanks for watching. You can subscribe by clicking on this button over here, or click over there for more news. You can also drop a comment to let me know if you've made it to the end of the video. Goodbye for now.